It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Ah! Right, Momo? Right. Momo's still sleeping on my computer. It is Feedback Friday. Lots of feedback to get to this week. I want to congratulate everybody. Pretty contentious topics covered this week, and for the overwhelming majority, people were respectful and decent and stayed calm. So, round of applause for everybody. Yay! Good job. We talked feminism, we talked politics, we talked racism, we talked a little religion even this week, and we're still alive. We're still doing well. So this is really great. I want to jump right into the feedback because there was a lot. There was a lot of really great, high quality feedback generated on each video this week, so much so that I couldn't actually get to all the good stuff, so I apologize if I don't get to your comment. In a few cases, I kind of combine the ideas into a single thing, so I tried to get everybody because it was so good, and I really want to encourage this sort of stuff, and that's where I'm going to start. After, some of the drama I dealt with in my tribalism video on Monday, and I'm not going to rehash it all because I don't think any good comes from that, but multiple people said, maybe this is an opportunity to build a bridge, maybe this is an opportunity to build a bridge. Guys, this entire YouTube channel is about bridge building. The Gamer's Guide to Feminism series is my attempt to try to build some bridges. And I decided to do that because I used to try to do this bridge building based on individuals, and it didn't work well. One of two things happened. One, it's come on my stream, and I'd go on someone's stream in good faith, and not only would I just get demolished because the minute they'd say feminism, or in some cases, Polygon writer, even though I wrote all of one article for Polygon, but the minute the host said this, their chat, their viewers, their Twitter followers would turn hostile. And then the abuse would begin, and not only did I take tons of you-know-what, but the host would get accused of being a beta or betaing or all this stuff. And I'm like, this is not productive for anybody. So I stopped doing that. The only YouTube host that seemed to manage a decent dialogue, even though we have fundamentally different political views, was V. Munro. And I did his stream quite a few times because his viewers, they joked around and they said some kind of saucy things, risque things, but they seemed generally willing to listen. And I didn't feel like they took the piss out of me any more than anybody else, and I really didn't feel like things became hostile or changed just because the word, feminist or feminism was dropped, even though, if you've seen any of V. Munro's videos, you know how he feels about that. So I want to give credit where credit's due. But it didn't change anything. I mean, V and I get along quite well, but, that's fine. We'll talk occasionally privately, but the needle doesn't move in anyone's opinions, really. So, all's well that ends well, but that's the exception that really proves the rule. So I've tried also to sort of build bridges behind the scenes, and I found out that was just a salt mine. What happened too often is during those conversations, people would screen cap things out of context and use it to discredit me, spread it all around and use it for, nefarious purposes. So the back channel stuff didn't work. There have been a few cases, and I'm not going to name any names because, I don't want to start that tribal warfare up. It's in the past. There's nothing that can be done about it. Those needles are not moving. So, let bygones be bygones. I don't want to bring up drama. But in some cases, I even thought things were fine. I thought things were in an area that could be maintained and the problem was solved. And then, the other person did it again. So why would I venture down that road again? And the people involved in those conversations, the people that tried to broker it, the people that talked me into trying to build bridges, said, yeah, I'm really sorry, not doing that again. So this is why I don't approach when things like this happen. If the people on the other side want to have a civil discussion with me. They know where I am. But I don't feel like the onus is on me to spend time on them when I didn't do anything. I was minding my own business. So my bridge building is through the videos, it's through listening to you guys, it's through talking to people who want to talk. And I really feel that it's not fair to reward people who decide to act badly and then, oh, look, got your attention, and then we have a civil conversation. No, no, no. I'm going to have a civil conversation with somebody who comes at me and is respectful and polite even when they disagree. Those are the people I'm going to talk to. Because then people, moving on a little bit, this is jumping around a little bit, but this is a segue, so I'm going to do it. People accuse me of being anti-free speech. And I don't want you to take what I say the wrong way going forward, but some of you may know that YouTube rules are that if you are not basically a politician or a major celebrity, other people do not have the right to use your likeness. I am also the co-copyright holder on any Ed and Red's night party footage. So if I was really opposed to criticism, there are things I could do. I could issue DMCA claims and win. I let that stuff stay up and just object to it in this forum by choice. It is a conscious choice. And let me tell you, it is very tempting to just make it go away. And because people lie. I'm not saying in this case it was a lie. I'm not saying that. But in other times, people have used my likeness to lie about me. And other people, so many people, and this is another reason I don't like bringing in third parties, but so many people were splattered around in certain videos that other people DMCA'd the video based on their likeness and their personal information being used, and I got blamed. Let me make it absolutely clear. I do not DMCA videos, ever. I don't. Because I don't like it when it's done to me, so I don't do it. But I also do believe in free speech. I don't believe in unaccountable speech. And that is the major difference that we will get to. Now, let's get to it now. There's free speech. And free speech on paper, and yes, there's two different, the actual free speech law, the First Amendment means you cannot be persecuted by the government, you cannot be thrown in jail for saying something they don't agree with. That does not mean there are no consequences to your speech, and that does not mean that a private company is forced to associate with you, or any individuals are forced to associate with you, no matter what you say. That's not what free speech means. And people who say that there should be no consequences for anything anybody says in terms of restricted access in an online communication forum with rules and a terms of service, that's not free speech. That's unaccountable speech. And that's where my line is. And anybody who's watched this YouTube channel for any period of time knows I am very consistent when it comes to valuing accountability, because I think that we need fewer rules. This is where my libertarian streak comes out. I think we need fewer rules, we need fewer laws, we need fewer regulations if everyone is just accountable for what they personally do. So I am a big believer in that. Jumping back a little bit regarding Wonder Woman, a few people, and this just tells you how numb I am to a lot of this stuff, a few people pointed out that there's actually nudity involving Wonder Woman on the inside of these books where the covers got censored on the front. I am so used to cover art having absolutely nothing to do with what's inside, and I am so used to Marvel and DC Comics being gratuitous when it comes to sex and violence on the inside of comics. I didn't even notice that was strange, so good for you guys for pointing it out. Moving back to the whole Twitter debate, there were a lot of comments that, and this is difficult because what do I do now? Do I restate what I've said in the past and take up more time on what my opinions are on Twitter? Or do I just say, go back and watch my old videos? because I have talked about the various Twitter double standards. I have advocated in the past when Twitter used removal of verification as a punishment. I had issues with that because that's not what verification is intended to do. I thought I was clear. Let me be clear again. I do believe there are double standards on Twitter. I believe that Twitter is a more empowered experience for major media figures and celebrities than it is for rank and file people, and I have a real problem with that. I think rank and file people should have greater protections against invasion of privacy and defamation than celebrities do. Part of the reason I like I said, I don't make stuff, I don't get stuff taken down about me is because I think I should have to take it more than a person with, 500 Twitter followers and 24 subscribers on YouTube. With success comes, criticism. And I'm fine with that. I just want the ability to be able to, how do I put this? Because I don't want to say control and experience, because that sounds like block lists and everything like that. And anybody who's listening for a while knows I'm opposed to this. I want to be able to be a part of things that are positive and constructive. And too often I feel that on social media in various forms, various dialogues, various controversies are not constructive. They're just a whole bunch of screaming and yelling and virtue signaling and tribal warfare, and nothing gets solved. There's no, and hey, if it turns into a barn burner fight and people really, go hard, and everybody brings their A game, and there's some resolution at the end, if we move forward, I'm great with that. I mean, I am not conflict averse in that way. I think that part of the reason that things are so stupid now is people are so afraid of conflict that they produce unproductive conflict, because conflict is unavoidable if you're trying to do anything meaningful. So that's sort of where I feel on that. There are other videos, if you'd like to see them. They're a while back. Unfortunately, maybe I can find them. I don't know. But yeah, I want to sort of keep this entertaining for, regular viewers, so I don't want to rehash. People complain that I repeat myself too often, so I'm trying to watch that. But yeah, it is there. No, I am not anti-free speech, and I just ask that people be very careful when they accuse somebody else of that, because that is a heavy accusation. Now, maybe I'm a bit more sensitive to that than most people, because I have seen environments where speech is not free. I have seen environments where things are censored and people can't speak their minds. I think that block lists are a form of censorship, and that's why I oppose them on Twitter. I don't think that a tool that blocks people because of guilt by association or because they were put on some no-fly list is right. And I think that individuals should be judged as individuals. I understand people wanting their Twitter experience to be quieter, but it's, I think that sort of fundamentally misunderstands Twitter. And this is dangerous territory, I know, because I don't want to advocate that people should be able to do or say anything they want. I don't think people should be able to dogpile. I dislike dogpiling because it's a strength in numbers argument. There are a lot of us and there's one of you, therefore we're right. And I disagree with that. I think that if you have the facts on your side, if you have a solid argument, you should be able to persuade the other person without it being a numbers game. I do not like this mob rule that goes on social media. It's just because I find it anti-intellectual. But that's my thinking. Let's move on to the Thursday video, because this is the one was I the most afraid of it? I was a little worried about Wednesdays because I recorded it and then stuff happened, and it's like, oh God, I hope that people don't think I'm trying to passive aggressively address this. I wasn't. I recorded it before it happened. And then of course, recording anything involving the gong show that is US politics right now, if you wait 10 hours for it to show up on the regular time it could be dated. So that was a bit of a risk, but also I find that any time the issue of any sort of sexism comes up, people tend to come in it charged. They're keyed up. There are certain identity-based issues surrounding that conversation that I understand. I understand that's a tender subject for a lot of people because a lot of people deal with, you know, the whole discussion of sexism for the first time when an accusation is leveled at them, or well, that's the first time it really hits them. And unfortunately, too often people are just told, you're sexist or that's sexist, and there's no opportunity for dialogue on it. And I think that's really unfortunate, first of all, because people feel terrible. They don't want to be sexist. They don't understand why they're being called sexist. But in this Kafka-esque modern age, it's demanded that they accept that they were sexist, even though they don't understand why. And again, I disagree with this, and this is part of the bridge building work that I do. And so there were two really great questions regarding this that I want to get to. One was, well, let's start with the second one and then, okay. The one question was, is affirmative action a form of benevolent sexism? And it's a great question, and I really had to think about it. Now, affirmative action just doesn't impact women. It's women, minorities, it's this, that, and the next thing. And I'm like, all right, there's what affirmative action is intended to do, which is get over the hostile sexist barrier. But there's an element of benevolent sexism and benevolent racism and all that stuff that at the time affirmative action was put in, there was also overcoming that, the idea that women, the working world was too stressful for women, that women's rightful place was in the home, it was the natural place, and forcing a woman to work was not good for her health. And unfortunately, there were certain things that came with it. One of the interesting things is that when women entered the working world in additional numbers, heart disease in women shot up. And it's a lifestyle thing. It is stress to an extent, but to me, that doesn't say women can't handle it. That's saying, oh, look, both men and women are getting equal health issues from their jobs. Well, there's something wrong with the job. But so affirmative action on paper, actually affirmative action period, is not benevolent sexism. However, it's undeniable that some benevolent sexism, benevolent racism, and so on occurs connected to, and it's difficult to sort of tell where the hostile sexism ends and the benevolent sexism begins, because there's that whole thing of people assuming affirmative action hires don't deserve the job. They're only there because of an affirmative action hire. That is more hostile sexism. That is more benevolent that isn't benevolent. That is an attempt to protect women. But I know there have been instances where I have had to fight to get access somewhere because people thought it was dangerous. And it's like, well, all the male members of the crew are going there. You know, you'll send the black cameraman into a biker bar in a racist part of America. I'm not saying all bikers are racist. I'm just saying this particular shoot that I'm drawing from memory, the cameraman was black, and it wasn't smart. But, you know, men in this job were expected to take a certain amount of risk, and there were times I said, look, if it's too dangerous for me to go, then I make the argument that it's too dangerous for anyone to go. You guys shouldn't be taking stupid risks either. And so there is that, and that obviously happened when more women started entering the workplace. So I hope that answers that question, because it's a good one. It made me think. The second one is, can benevolent sexism affect men? And this is a great question as well. the majority of sexism directed at men, and yet, yes, I do believe sexism is a two-way street, and I deal with that in my videos, but there is nothing in our culture that encourages us to protect adult men. Boys, yes. Adult men, not so much. And this is something that we've been having to walk back from. I've been really happy to see, hard-boiled cops talking about emotions on TV lately. I've been, male politicians talk about crying. It's a good step forward. But there's nothing in our cultural attitudes, especially benevolent, when it comes to men in general. I think there's a lot of hostility associated with masculinity, and I really wish that men's rights groups would start focusing on that and just talking about that instead of seeing it as somehow the fault of feminism, because these things pre-existed feminism. Women and children first is a benevolent form of sexism that goes back way before first wave guys. This isn't something new. And I think there's an absolute point, and this week I discovered how many men's rights types listen to this channel, so I'm talking to you, or watch this channel, I'm talking to you here. You have valid concerns, and there is a lot of common ground with, if you want to call them equity feminists or whatever, and men. There is a lot of benevolent sexism that we would like to see removed. I want women in military service. I want, courts and childcare and all that stuff to be gender neutral. I don't want the assumption that a woman is a default caregiver of minor children. I don't want any of that. And there's a lot of feminists who don't want any of that either. They want it to be fair. We want it to be fair. We are not the enemy. We are not your enemy. And I maintain that anti-feminism is a colossal waste of time, because again, if you're constantly trying to prove the radical feminists wrong, you're not educating people on the very important issues affecting men. And I say this as someone who works on suicide prevention, who works on, men having safe areas to, not even safe, encouraging, like welcoming areas to express emotion. I care about all this stuff. I work on all this stuff. And it's a waste of time to be down with feminism. Talk about that stuff. Advocate for that stuff. Be pro something. Be for something as opposed to against something. It's much more productive use of time and effort and emotion. Because I think we'd all kind of be amazed how much common ground there is. And hey, I'm not saying everybody's going to be on board with this, because if you look at the history of the Equal Rights Amendment, one of the big, how do I put this? One of the big reasons the Equal Rights Amendment failed is that certain feminists, and obviously the Equal Rights Amendment was championed by feminists, but certain other feminists were worried that because women are given equal status under the law, had the ERA passed, then all those childcare rulings and maternity leave rulings and all those things would be cut, would be destroyed, because, well, men don't get them, so women don't get them either. And so there is, that's why when people come at me like, feminists say this and feminists say that, and you get 3 feminists in a room, you'll get 4 opinions on an issue on this. It's not simple. It's not a monolith. It's certainly not binary choice, for or against. There's a lot of nuance in this stuff. Now, people aren't going to talk to you in a relaxed fashion if you come at them saying, I'm opposed to you. Some people will say, well, why is that? A lot of people will go, well, okay, I'm not going to talk to you then. If you're coming at me antagonistically, there's no point. It's a waste of my time. I am not here to change your mind. I will have a conversation. I will discuss with you things, but I am not interested in an us and them. I am not interested in tribes. I am not interested in being your enemy. But I think that talking about these things works better when we come at it from, I am for this, you are for this. How do we get us both what we want? As opposed to saying, I am for this, you are against this. That's much harder to create common ground with. If you have a list of things you want, if you have a list of things you're working towards, people can work with that. If this is what you'd like to see improved. But if all you want to do is oppose the work other people have done, there's nothing anybody can do for you. They can't give you anything. You're basically saying, stop, make this other person stop what they're doing. Why? That's not freedom. That's not freedom of speech. This is making me uncomfortable, so stop. So that's my suggestion. And I admit, in the time I've done this YouTube channel, I have definitely become more comfortable with the term men's rights activist than anti-feminist. I don't immediately have a reaction to the term MRA like I used to. Part of the reason I am so, I try to give people who have a bad opinion of feminism a chance, because my first experiences with the men's rights movement were horrible. They were that stereotype bully who just wanted to shout me down and call me gendered slurs and tell me to go back in the kitchen and make my husband a sandwich. Why'd he let you off your leash? Things like that. These were the comments I got. And, I found that there are people who aren't like that. And because I've made that journey, I'm asking the, people who label themselves anti-feminists, I'm asking you to give people like me the same dignity. Because you got to realize, when you say I am an anti-feminist, you are saying I am opposed to feminism. Not some forms of feminism, you are opposed to feminism. That's what it comes across as. Why do you need the label? Why do you need the identity? Like, I say I'm a feminist because it's easy, but it's not an identity for me. There are certain principles I find very useful in my work. That's it. I do not feel like it is an identity I have to defend. But it's also not something I feel like I should stop calling myself just because other people are crazy. That's not fair. Like, why should I cede that ground? Why should I just let the term go to rot? Like, why should I tiptoe around something and say all these things that are murky and useless, like egalitarian? Well, what does that mean? Am I just as competent to speak about Islamic rights or the rights of South Asians? No, I'm not. I have an area of expertise. And this stupid culture war is denying me the ability to have an easy shorthand of, this is the work I do. This is one of my areas of expertise. It's just simple. And, when you're going to speak at talks and things like that, people want to know, what do you talk about? And you say women's issues, they hear feminist anyway, so why should we be afraid of words? So yeah, I really caution people on identifying as anti-anything. Stand for things, not against things. This may sound like a platitude, but I've found it's real. You're happier. You're happier when you're working towards things as opposed to against things. And I've found that the people who are extremely left-wing and the people who are extremely right-wing or more right-wing that I get along with tend to be the people that, I am conservative because I am pro-business, or I am conservative because I believe in small government, or I am left-wing because I believe in universal health care or affordable tuition, not, I am left-wing because I oppose bigotry. I'm not going to get along with that person. You get what I'm saying? Conservative, I am, I am right-wing because I don't like the way this country is going. No, I'm not going to get in. I'm not going to get along with that person. It's a fundamental thought process of, are you a builder? Are you a person who thinks things can get better? Or do you just want to tell everybody why things suck? And I know, you guys are going to find everything wrong with this line of thought now. You're going to be, well, what about, are you anti-Nazi? I'm pro-human rights, guys. Like, that's semantics at this point. So go ahead. Advocate for people like you. That's the way the system works. Do it. That is a better use of time than advocating against people who are not like you. Trust me, it sounds nuts, but it works. Believe me, I would have been much more productive in my 20s if I recognized this. But hopefully that answers some questions. My question for you, and I know this has gone on long, but there was so much, it couldn't be helped. But I realized yesterday that the next Gamer's Guide to Feminism is scheduled to come out next Tuesday. That is smack dab in the middle of the Democratic convention, and I'm worried that it's going to get lost because I think a lot of the people who are interested in that sort of work are also politically engaged like me. So my question for you guys is, should I delay it a week? Should I wait until these conventions are done so we're not splitting focus so people don't miss it or fall behind? And yes, it's still there, but people like to be right there at the beginning. And it's also like, would you rather see me cover the stuff going on like I did this week, next week instead? Let me know, because I honestly don't know. I like to finish things, and I think I'm going to finish it for Tuesday no matter what, but I want to make sure it's a smart time. So that's my question. Let me know. Looking forward to your comments. Have a great weekend.